I don't know about you, but I sure as heck don't watch YouTube to see crappy, soulless, overdramatic fake content made by robots. I watch YouTube to see real human beings, other humans who are imperfect like me, just doing the best that they can and sharing their churning with me, sharing their real emotions, sharing their real lives. I don't want to watch AI content, so I'm never going to make AI content. That would completely defeat the purpose of this whole channel. I made this channel to connect with other human beings who are suffering in this horrible culture and want to make a better world for themselves and for everyone who they love. AI is just the newest technology created to exploit and to brainwash us all. AI is just the newest and most destructive form of lying. It's exactly what I'm trying to end. So I will never use it. Hi, I'm MamaCass Bear. I'm a middle-aged woman living here in Canada, and I have the audacity to think that I can change the world for the better. Which is why, after a hard life, after having my children stolen from me by my abusive child predator ex-husband, and my whole life destroyed after losing my home and absolutely everything, I did something kind of crazy. I started a YouTube channel. It's been over 2 years and I have struggled. I didn't have the faintest clue what I was doing. I had to learn how to do all of this from scratch, and I have very little money to buy equipment, so I'm often trying to make this work despite using old and broken down technology. But I knew, and I still know, and I will always know, that there are a lot of other people out there just like me. People who have been broken and used up by the evil people and systems that make up our evil society, our evil and destructive wet culture. It's for those people that have been broken like me, that I struggle to do this important work of changing the world. You are why I'm doing this. You, dear viewer, are living in the same crappy, crazy world as I am. A world that breaks people. A world that chews us up, swallows down absolutely everything that we love, and then spits us out, broken and discarded, used up and sucked dry, and just leaves us there, alone, to suffer and die. I know that I'm not alone, because I know that this is how our world works. I spent decades trying to figure it all out, because even as a child I knew that something was so very wrong. For the longest time, I thought that it was me that was the problem. Have you believed this too? Did you believe everyone who told you that it was you that was the problem? I know Taylor Swift talks about this in her song Antihero. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. And Goddess knows the world so dearly loves to blame us women for everything. But not just women. Because if you're a man who isn't manly enough, who isn't constantly standing in triumph on top of the necks of those who you have exploited and conquered, then you've been told that it's you that is the problem too. I learned this from my eldest son when he was just a little boy, when he was 8 years old. So I know it's not just me, but yeah, I have been told this my whole life, that I am the one to blame for what other people did to me, that I deserve it, because I'm just so very wrong. There are a lot of reasons why each of us are considered to be wrong. For me, an awful lot of why people think I'm so very wrong is that I'm autistic. Now, I didn't know that I was autistic all these years. It's only because my eldest daughter, my Raven cub, discovered in her late 20s that she is autistic. And then later, as 2 more of my kids were diagnosed after they were stolen from me, we all realized that I'm autistic too. Of course, that's where it comes from. It's genetic. and it runs in my family. But I had been baffled my whole life, looking at the world around me and seeing that all around me so much was so deeply wrong. And that it had been wrong for hundreds of years before I was even born. So it just could not be me that was the problem. As one of my therapists once said to me, how can it all be your fault? You're just not that powerful. So I began to suspect that there was something really big going on. But it was only after my children were stolen from me by my narcissist ex-husband and a family court system and a society that is actively working to destroy maternal bonds that I finally started to put it all together. It's been 13 years now since the destruction of my life began in earnest. 13 years since my Wetico ex-husband and our Wetico culture set out to crush me. I lost my children, my vehicle, and then my home, so that I was forced to move in with my boyfriend, who I call Papa Bear here. And then finally, I lost my health. I ended up in hospital with osteomyelitis, having a toe amputated to save my life, right while my parental rights were being severed in family court. But as I was losing these things over several years, I was also being given wonderful gifts. Wonderful and wise people came into my life and shared with me their true wisdom. I started to see the big patterns. I started to see that my ex-husband was a covert, malignant narcissist. I started to see why he does what he does, why he destroys people. I started to see that it was all because of what had been done to him, to break him and to infect him with a spiritual sickness. A spiritual sickness of using and consuming the life force of others. A spiritual sickness that First Nations people of Turtle Island call Wetico. I started to see that he had been broken by his own family and broken by our culture in order to infect him with this Wetico virus and then turn himself, into a full-blown Wetico. As a Wetico, he infects others by abusing them. I was not immune. I reacted to this abuse by becoming insane and sometimes abusive myself. I must bear the shame of what I have done. But as I have come to understand how this sickness works, I've been able to learn how to heal myself. It is my intention to do everything in my power to also heal those who I love, especially my children. I have learned that this is the only way to heal from the shame spiral at the heart of Wetico. And then, after seeing Wetico in my ex-husband, and as a reaction within myself, I then started to see that it wasn't just him. He wasn't just a random bad person. I started to see that we are all living in a society that is itself a raging narcissist, a culture that is actively evil. I call this culture our culture, by that name used by First Nations people to describe the evil, destructive, cannibal spirit that can infect humans and transform them. They call this spiritual infection, which makes someone evil, Wetico, and so I call our evil culture Wetico culture. I now know that it's not me that is the problem, and because I know that, I also know that it's not you that is the problem. And it is our evil and destructive Wetico culture that is the problem. Knowing that, just like finally diagnosing the illness that is making you sick, you can finally begin to heal. Understanding that it is our Wetico culture that breaks people, that makes people sick, that uses us up and then spits us out, I can finally begin to heal. And on my journey to healing and health and peace, I can make myself a new home. Not only a new physical home to replace the one that was stolen from me, but finally a home within myself for my own spirit, for my own unique self. And by doing so, I can offer a home to others where they can feel safe enough to accept the reality of what has been done to them and sometimes what we have ourselves done while we were in this sickness. And feeling safe, we can finally grieve for what we have lost. And we can all actually heal. We can all begin that journey ourselves to make ourselves a home. I want all of you to be able to do this, just like I am myself doing now. And that is why I started this channel. I call it Rematriate because it is all about a return to Mother in all ways possible, especially about a return to living in deep connection with our sacred Mother Nature, because that is the antidote to Wetiko, to reject that way of living and return to a life way of deep connection with nature. A life way where we don't use and use up other people, but rather live in an interconnected and mutually interdependent web of care. And this is the truly inspirational part. As more and more and more of us find healing, as more and more and more of us change our cosmology and change what we value and change how we live, then we will be the antidote to Wetiko culture. We will truly change the world for the better. We will be the beginning of peace. And that is the message that I am here to share. A message of healing and a message about the path forward towards peace. It is my purpose here to share that message with you. So won't you please come with me? Please come into my house here in the Canadian wilderness, and I will tell you more about this message. I'll tell you a little of my own story over the last 5 years or so, and most importantly, I'll tell you more about how we can all change our world for the better, about how we can each make ourselves a home where we are safe to heal. And I'm going to make you a very important promise, a pledge. So come inside here to my new home, to my safe place in the wilderness. I call this beautiful place my wildernest, and you are so very welcome here. Come along with me and rematriate.
Storms, they come, they go. They know to ride the breeze. Life is not always still. Find your way back. Let it flow. Guide where to go. Let it flow. Guide where to go. Heart beating too fast. Slow with your breath. Emotions rush through your face. Conscious pull in the rain. Let it flow. Guide where to go. Let it flow. Guide where to go.
Welcome home. Grab yourself a nice hot beverage. Curl up here with me by the fire. It's warm and cozy here. This is my wilderness. And by watching my videos, you get to spend some time here with me, in my safe place, in my place of healing, in my home. And you get to join me on this journey to heal and to make a true home. If you also find yourself broken and sick and thrown away, if you find yourself destroyed by and discarded by this culture that we live in, by this evil, destructive Wetiko culture, if you desperately want to understand how and why this all happened, and you just desperately want to make yourself a safe place, a place of peace, you just need to finally have an actual home, then you are also what I am, and what the other members of this wonderful, small, but growing community are too. You are a radical homemaker. As we say in the goddess worshiping community, hail and well met. I hope that you will find it comforting here, and that you will wish to return, and that you will subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, then you have already made Rematriate your home, and I say, welcome home. Settle in here and relax. Enjoy a nice hot beverage with me by the fire here. It's just so very cozy. Are y'all nice and comfy? Wonderful. Now, let's talk a little bit more. In terms of my own journey to make myself a true home, there is nothing more important to me than helping my own children find a way to return to me, to return to their own mother, helping my precious children to rematriate. And despite the powers opposing me, I am slowly finding ways to return my children home to me. Of course, I don't use any real names here. I have come up with nicknames for all of us. Mine is MamaCass Bear. My second child, my eldest son, I call by the nickname Man Cub. Man Cub was stolen from me by his father and his father's girlfriend when he was 11 years old. Then, 7 years after he was stolen from me, when he turned 18 and the government money stopped coming in for him, Man Cub was thrown out of the house by his stepmonster and father demon. They discarded him because they couldn't use him anymore. Just threw him out, way out in the wilderness. He had to ride his bike around 80 kilometers, which is about 50 miles, into the nearest small city to stay with his best friend. All he had was his bike, a small backpack, and the clothes he was wearing. Thank goddess. His friend and his friend's mother took him in, and they looked after him. He was living with them and working hard at getting himself a job. He ended up working at a factory that processed frozen fish. About 9 months after Man Cub was thrown out, his only grandmother, who was my mother, died after a battle with lung cancer. And when Man Cub found out that his grandmother had died, he reached out to me. Reconnecting was difficult because he had been told so much about me that was negative during the years that we were kept apart. In the first days, it was very painful because I had to admit to all of the ways that I had failed him. But because I took responsibility, because I was willing to apologize for the things that I did actually do, he started to open up to me again. He started to trust me because I proved to him that it was safe for him to trust me. It took about 6 months for me to rebuild our relationship. Difficult, yes, but so very worthwhile. And now, Man Cub and I share a small basement apartment in that same small city that he had escaped to when Step Monster and Father Demon threw him out. I call this apartment our city den. We almost lost our little home this spring because I wasn't able to pay for it myself, and Man Cub went through hell for years trying to keep a job despite his autism and his health issues and his trauma. To hear more details about this particular part of the story and what we went through to get Man Cub a disability support income, you can check out the video I made last year when we were about to lose that apartment. I was forced to ask for help, and that video explains the situation. It's called Help a Protective Mother. Even though this community is tiny, it was your donations that saved us. I am so grateful. Man Cub, who is now almost 24 years old, is the only one of my children who is living with me. The only one with me full time. This gives me so much comfort because he is becoming a really good person. Man Cub gives me this comfort and also so much inspiration for what I want for all of my children. Let me tell you about my other children. My eldest daughter, who I call Raven Cub here, is Man Cub's big sister and almost 10 years older than him. She is still suffering from what my ex-husband did to her when she was a child. It is because of what he did to Raven that I have given him the nickname Father Demon. He was her stepfather, and she trusted him, and he used that trust to take advantage of her and to use her and to abuse her. She has been trying so hard to heal after all of the abuse that has been heaped on her, but because she is autistic, the trauma has impacted her very profoundly. Despite all of this, because she is such an amazing and capable young woman, she has actually created some real success. She has a small home of her own in subsidized housing. That home is in another small city about 2 hours away. I only get to see her a few times a year. I have done everything that I can to help her, and she has worked very hard. But because she is so severely traumatized, she still doesn't have the stability that she deserves. But she keeps trying, and I keep trying in whatever ways I can to help her. She is a very gifted healer, and she has actually taught me rather a lot. And that's the best thing about our children, isn't it? How much they can teach and inspire us. I look forward to the day when she can join us here on Rematriate and share some of that healing wisdom that she has learned. She's such an engaging storyteller, and I'm sure that you will all love her just as much as I do. So that's my eldest daughter, Raven Cub. My middle daughter, Sunny Cub, is Man Cub's little sister, 3 years younger than him. Both Sunny Cub and Man Cub have been formally diagnosed as autistic, and they both have a disability support income now. Now, I am so proud of my amazing Sunny. She actually ran away from her father demon and her step monster when she was just 14 years old. After 6 years of being ignored by the father that she adored, the father that stole her from me when she was 8 years old, the father demon who was living on the government money that was supposed to be taking care of her. After years of being starved, neglected, and actively tormented by the woman who helped Father Demon to steal Sunny from me, this stepmonster actually performed an exorcism on my shy, quiet, bookish, very well-behaved, autistic daughter. An exorcism. And this because my starving daughter stole food from this woman who was receiving hundreds of dollars every month to feed and care for her. I can't express to you how furious I was when Sunny told me what she had been subjected to by this evil woman, and how desperate Sunny had felt while she was trapped there. And despite everything, my brave and precious Sunny Cub ran away. She didn't get far, just a half kilometer to the neighbor's place, way out in the wilderness where they were living. This neighbor was a former friend of the step monster and a teacher and a social worker. She took Sunny Cub in, but she has been working for years to get her to go back to her father demon, who she now is living with her. Yeah, it's all so confusing, isn't it? It took me quite a while after I was finally able to reconnect with Sunny, who was living in a group home at the time, to figure all of this out for all of the stories that she had to tell me. Sunny has been discarded and psychologically abused by a series of foster parents and finally ended up in the group home in a really big city several hours away. I was able to reconnect with Sunny only because of her baby sister, 3 years younger than her, my youngest daughter, who I call Flower Cub. Flower reached out to me after Father Demon found out that Man Cub had moved into the apartment with me. Information trickled down to her, and she decided to reach out to me. She actually found me on Facebook. Yeah, It wasn't easy for her because she was not allowed to have any contact with me. None of my kids were allowed to have any contact with me after Father Demon and the stepmonster stole them from me. The stepmonster kept my Flower locked up pretty tightly. She wouldn't let her have any books to read or have regular access to a phone, and this was far from the only way that Flower was suffering. Flower was being bullied at school because she never had a proper lunch to eat, and the stepmonster would only let her shower for 10 minutes once a week and wash her small bundle of clothes once a month. So she wasn't clean or cared for, and other kids are often really cruel. Despite this, Flower had made one really good friend. The stepmonster did let Flower visit her friend and even stay overnight. It was the only real freedom that she ever got, and it was because Flower made a real nuisance of herself if she wasn't allowed to have these sleepovers. I'm so proud of my Flower for staying so fierce. I had Flower with me until she was 5 years old, and before she was stolen, her kindergarten teacher said that she was the smartest and most independent child that she had ever met. Go Flower! Flower stayed fierce despite everything. She made the stepmonster miserable, and she very creatively found a way to reach out to me with a busted old laptop that she had managed to get her hands on. She had a lot of pain to share with me when she did reach out. She told me that the stepmonster was hitting her and starving her baby brother. They were the only two kids left there with Father Demon and stepmonster at this time, which was 9 years after my 4 children were stolen. First, my brave Sonny at 14 years old had run away 6 years after they were all stolen. Then Man Cub was thrown out about a year after that, after he turned 18 and the government money stopped coming. Then, about 2 years after that, when she was 14, Flower reached out to me. Now, at that time, as I said, there were only the 2 youngest kids still with Father Demon and stepmonster. My Flower, now 14 herself, and her baby brother, 2 years younger than Flower. My youngest child, my sweet and gentle Teddy Cub. Teddy was only 3 years old when Father Demon and stepmonster stole him from me. I had no contact with him at all for 9 years. He was 12 when his big sister Flower reached out to me. Flower used the video option on Facebook Messenger for us to talk to each other. And for the first time in 9 years, I was able to see and talk to my 2 youngest children. For the first time, I learned that all my fears about what my children were suffering were very true. Man Cub had said a little bit about it, but Flower confirmed everything and then told me so much more. Flower told me about them all being starved, being fed nothing but oatmeal and pasta from the food bank, about being forced to work in the garden, about having to care for chickens, but not being allowed to eat the eggs, about not having proper heat in the house and being cold all winter every year, about not being allowed to wash except one 10-minute shower once a week, having to do her own laundry, but only allowed to do it once a month, having no proper clothes that actually fit her, never mind clothes like the other kids were wearing, no books to read, having her stuffed animals all taken away from her as punishment. And then Flower held up the laptop, actually I think it was a tablet, so the camera could show me the inside of the house. And let me tell you, this horrible woman is also a full-blown hoarder. And my children were trapped there, being tortured for years, so that this stepmonster and their Father Demon could live off the money they were getting from the government and the Child Protection Agency that had helped them to take my children from me. That's how our evil Wedico culture works. It supports evil people in stealing from and destroying good people. Why do you think we have so many billionaires? So many billionaires. Because the system supports these people in exploiting those who can't stand up to them. But the stepmonster didn't keep my children forever. Almost 10 years. But as I said, as they started aging out of the money, started tossing them away. First, Sonny ran away, so that money was gone. Then, when he turned 18 a year after Sonny left, stepmonster threw Man Cub out of the house. And then, Eventually, she finally threw away Father Demon and the last two children, my fierce little flower cub and my gentle and sweet youngest son, Teddy Cub. This was all starting around the time that Flower reached out to me. The whole situation was deteriorating, and Father Demon was terrified because he was completely dependent on Stepmonster. Stepmonster was literally getting into fistfights with Flower because Flower refused to obey her. Flower was telling me about all of this while it was happening. She's a child, and trying to figure it all out and understand it is extremely difficult. So I didn't understand everything that was happening while it was occurring. I only understand it now in hindsight. But Flower convinced her Father Demon to let me take her and Teddy for 2 weekends right at the end of that school year, right when she had her grade 8 graduation. Flower thought they were all about to be homeless. And for a brief period of those few weeks, I thought I was going to get my youngest two children back. Those 2 weekends, they were miraculous. I was able to hold my two youngest children for the first time in 9 years. I was able to feed them decent meals. They told me about the horrible undercooked pasta and the oatmeal that the stepmonster had been feeding them for years. How the other kids at school shamed and humiliated them for being hungry and dirty. I was able to give them some clothes from the belongings that I'd saved from when I had my children with me. I saved everything. Clothes, furniture, toys, stuffed animals, books. All of it is preserved in this house like a museum exhibit of a stolen childhood. My baby boy Teddy was 12 years old, but he was the size of an 8-year-old, able to wear man cub's clothes from when he was that age. This is what happens when children are starved for years. Both Flower and Teddy will never grow to the full height that they should have because they were starved for 9 years from the age of 5 and 3 years old. They will always carry the effects of those 9 years of neglect. There's nothing I can do to repair that damage done to them by their Father Demon and the stepmonster. But for those 2 weeks, I thought that I would finally have them back with me and be able to start caring for them properly. We made the most of those 2 weekends. Flower had a wonderful graduation. She asked me to do her makeup. She was so happy with how it looked. It felt so good to be able to do that for her. For once, she felt beautiful and adored. I got to tell her how very proud I was of her. I got to listen to everything that she wanted to share and tell her how much I loved her. We took wonderful pictures of her in the dress that same neighbor had given her, and we took Flower and Teddy to McDonald's after her graduation. It's a very small way for them to feel like normal children. For those 2 weekends, they slept in warm beds with their own stuffed animals. They ate good food and also had treats and desserts like ice cream. The kids played in our pool, and I got them some fun pool toys and sunglasses at the dollar store. After playing in the pool, my little Teddy cub was so cold and tired. He asked me to warm him up, so I wrapped a big beach towel around him, and then I added a blanket, and then we sat in a rocking chair in front of the bonfire. I held him there in my arms, rocking him for several hours. I had my baby boy back. Those few hours of holding him in my arms are a treasure I will always hold in my heart. It is to be able to hold him after 9 years of no contact at all, to know that he could feel safe and warm and loved, to finally be able to pour the love out of my heart and into his. I have held all these things in my heart for so long. This has been years of suffering for me and for my children, and I haven't really shared this pain. I have held on to it because my pain was the only thing that truly belonged to me, the only thing that no one could ever take away from me. I'm sharing it with you right now, my dear viewer. Not because I want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want to cause you pain. But I have learned a lot over these years from hearing stories from others who have suffered great pain like this. Over these years, I have heard so many other stories from mothers who have had their children stolen. Many stories from people who suffered when they were themselves children. And hearing these stories actually helped me, because it helped me to understand that I was not alone. And that is what I want for you. I want you to know that you are not alone in your suffering, and that you do not deserve it. And that no matter how bad it is, we absolutely can survive and heal and create a world that does not do this. So hang on. We're going through this together, and we absolutely will make these changes, even when it seems like we won't get there. Have faith, and it sustains me. I will never give up on my children and on making a home for them, even though I know it's going to take a long time to free them all. It's been over 3 years since those 2 weekends where I got to see my babies and hold them. And they are not with me right now. They didn't get to come home. As I said, only Man Cub is with me. Flower told me that the step monster had thrown them out just before those 2 weekends. They were staying with the same neighbor that Sunny had been with 3 years before when she ran away. At first, this neighbor said that they could only stay for just a little while, which is why I thought that I was going to get my babies back, because I thought that they were going to be homeless and that I would be able to get them back from Father Demon. But Father Demon has a real way with women, and he won this woman over. So they are still there right now, and Flower and Teddy never came back here to Wildernest ever again. When Papa Bear and I dropped them off at the neighbor's place after that second weekend, I thought that they would be going to school for their last week, and that they would gather up the few belongings that they'd salvaged from the step monster's house, and then they would come back to me. I was wrong. Father Demon clamped down on them and cut contact back off. He sent Flower to stay with a friend of his in the same really big city as Sunny. This friend became her foster mother, and Flower is still there. This woman is not perfect, but she has given Flower the closest thing to a home that she has had since she was stolen from me. And even though this woman is no longer getting any money for Flower, since Flower will turn 18 soon, she's keeping her with her. She is not throwing her away. So I am grateful to this woman, and I wish blessings upon her. But my Teddy Cub is still with Father Demon, living with this new woman who has fallen under Father Demon's spell for a little while after those 2 weekends, a couple of years. Teddy would talk to me on the phone that Flower had finally got. And then when he got a phone of his own, a few times a year, he would call me. He would lie to Father Demon and sneak a phone call to me, but those have stopped now. It's been over a year since I talked to Teddy. Long story short, when a child has been raised in captivity and deprivation, it's inevitable that Stockholm Syndrome will take over, and that child will be completely trauma bonded to the captor. Teddy has no choice but to keep Father Demon happy by cutting me off. And I don't think that there is much hope for this to change until he turns 18 and the government money runs out for him too. There's nothing I can do. It's possible that those 2 weekends may be the last and only time I ever see him again. I was able to buy him a present almost 2 years ago when he started high school. I got him a really great backpack, lunch bag, and pencil case set, and Man Cub brought it to him when he was visiting Father Demon at this neighbor's place. I was able to talk to Teddy on the phone beforehand, because Man Cub has a phone, and have him look at the Amazon link and confirm that he liked the backpack set. And Man Cub tells me that Teddy really did like it, and he does use it. I wrote a letter and put it in the backpack for him, telling him how much I love him, telling him that he's perfect and that anyone who says different is wrong. I don't know if he read the letter, but I haven't had any contact with him since. I'm sure that Father Demon is punishing us both because I bought him that present, and Teddy has to make him happy by avoiding me. It hurts, but I'm not going anywhere. I am always going to be here, and I will do everything that I can to make a home for my Teddy if he is ever able to escape. And that's all that I can do. That, and grieve for what I have lost, and heal. When setbacks happen, I have to breathe and remember that the only thing that I can control in this world is me, and return to working on my plan. So yeah, after those 2 weekends, I did not get my babies back. But please understand, though, there have been some good things that have happened because of those 2 weekends. Because Sunny Cub came to Flower's grade 8 graduation, the group home actually let her come. They sent her with a driver. I was able to see her, and I was able to begin contact with her. I gave her my phone number, and because she was living in the group home at that time, and she had freedom, she had her own phone, she started sending me texts and pictures. We were reconnecting. At that time, she was no contact with her Father Demon, and she opened up to me and started sharing with me about what she had been through. She told me all about what she loved, what she was interested in, what she did for fun, what she was reading, the animes that she thought were cool. She started asking me for help and support. She would call me when she was upset or overwhelmed to help calm her down and figure out what to do. Being able to finally help her was as much of a miracle as those 2 weekends had been. Then, a few weeks later, she became very ill, and she ended up in hospital to have her appendix removed. She called me for help. Papa Bear and I drove into the city, and we brought her home here to Wildernest to recover after her surgery. No, it's not good that she had to have surgery, but I got to take care of her. I pulled all of her stuffed animals out and her crocheted blankets, and I created a nest of warmth and love for her. I got to hug her and brush her hair and tell her how truly wonderful she really is. This started a period of seeing her pretty regularly. This lasted for a while. I asked her if she would come for once a month, but for quite a while, it was actually more often than that. She was having a hard time in school and in a few other areas of her life, and she would call me for help and advice. I wasn't happy that she was suffering, of course, but to be able to be there for her and actually be helpful was the best thing ever. After years of not even seeing her, I could really be there for her. And when she would come to visit, actually spending time with her was perfection. This started in the late summer of 2022 and continued for well over a year. In fact, when I made my very first video here in the summer of 23, Sunny was fully in my life. She was planning on moving home here to me, home to Wilderness, after she finished high school. She was going to help build a new house here with me that we could share. I talked about this in my first video about how we were going to build together. I was wrong about that too. Of course, at the time I didn't know that I was wrong. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't read the future. But the neighbor that Father Demon put under his spell, she contacted Sunny and offered her several $100s to come and visit her father at this neighbor's place. Sunny hadn't seen her baby brother, Teddy Cub, since Flower's graduation in June of 22. She missed him. She wanted to save him. She also needed the money. So she went. And ever since, she has been moving further and further away from me, visiting less often, not calling me, and not visiting. She has been hoovered back into her Father Demon's control by this new social worker, neighbor, girlfriend who is independently wealthy and uses money to lure and to control. In fact, Sunny now hasn't come to visit me for over a year. She didn't even respond to my messages and texts for most of that very long year. So It's one step forward and two steps back, right? So she finally called me again a couple of months ago. And I'm praying to my mother goddess that I can get her to come and visit me again. But it's really hard to get past all the horrible things that she has been convinced to believe about me. She hasn't responded to me since that one phone call in November. And there's nothing that I can do about it. Nothing but grieve. We continue to heal and work at building a home for Sunny and all my cubs for when they are finally able to escape. But there's also good news happening. The really good news is that I finally got to see my flower cub very briefly, somewhat recently, for the first time in about 3 years. You know, she's been in contact with me constantly. That's the amazing thing. She keeps calling me on Facebook Messenger, and sometimes we talk for hours, and she tells me what she's thinking and how she's feeling and reads me her poetry and her prose and shows me her photographs and tells me about what she loves, and it's fantastic. And then, shortly after I talked to Sunny on the phone, Papa Bear and I met up with her in that really big city. I took her out for lunch. Such a small thing, but after years of those long video call conversations, so very good to see her in person and hug her. She's coming close to her 18th birthday, and she will be on her own soon, and there's nothing that I want more than to be able to offer her a home. But I don't have a home to offer because I lost my own home after the kids were stolen, and that's why I moved in here with Papa Bear a little over 10 years ago. And sadly, there's just no room here in this tiny house at Wildernest. I share this place with Papa Bear, who has been living here for 30 some odd years. He asked me to move in with him before I lost my home, and we were going to work away at it slowly, but then it became an emergency and I had to pack up and very quickly move in here. There wasn't, and there isn't, enough room for me to put all of my belongings and my children's things here inside the house. We built a storage building as quickly as possible, but not fast enough. A lot of furniture was destroyed, sitting on pallets and under tarps while we built it. And even now, there isn't enough room for everything to be stored safely, so a lot more stuff has been lost over these years. And the storage building, the few outbuildings, and the house are all jammed with stuff. There simply isn't even any room to move. Never mind add more people. Now, there definitely isn't room for me to offer a home to any of these 3 children. Never mind all of them. So, a few years after I moved in here at Wildernest, Papa Bear had a health crisis, and he was forced to retire early. For the first few years, he had driven into town every day to work, and I would go along to work in town too. Whatever work I could find. I have struggled for most of these years trying to find a permanent job. I worked as temp and did everything from demolition and flagging road construction to factory work, making auto parts, even working outside at a sawmill in the Canadian winter. Yeah, I will do whatever I have to do to survive and to try and save my children. But after Papa Bear retired, I had to stay with friends in the city because he couldn't drive back and forth to town every day anymore. Thank goddess for those good friends. They absolutely saved me. If any of you are listening, Steffi and Nikki and especially Jennifer, I can never thank you enough for being my safe place and literally saving my life. But despite it never being enough, I will still always say thank you. So I stayed with these friends for years, but partly because I didn't have a place of my own, I wasn't able to secure a permanent full-time job. It was only after Man Cub and I got the apartment, it was only once we got our city den, that I have had any kind of stability. I have now been with the same company for 4.5 years. I have excellent benefits and I earn a half-decent wage, but I don't get full-time hours, unfortunately. And my health has been so bad that I can't really keep up with full-time hours anymore anyways. I used to work 12 and sometimes even 13-hour shifts, especially when I was flagging construction. Sometimes I did continental rotation, and I could do that, but not anymore. These years have really taken a toll on me, and I'm on insulin now and struggling with autoimmune disorders and permanent physical disabilities. And now that I'm struggling to earn enough money, it is darn near impossible to have any spare money to put towards making my long-term plans a reality. As I said earlier, it has long been my plan to build my own house here on our land. We have plenty of building materials on the land, timber, and stone, and earth to use for this. But because I have to work full-time to pay the bills, and I barely manage to keep up with that, I simply haven't had the free time to do that. So there is only this tiny, old, cramped house here for us to live in. There isn't room in the apartment in City Den either. I saved all their belongings, but I don't have rooms to put them in, and I don't have any room for my children to come home to me. And this is breaking my heart. So, bearing the sadness of not yet being able to bring my other children home, even if I can get them free from their father demon, which is a really big if, this is the hardest part of my struggle right now. I just don't have the resources to be able to give them all the home that they deserve. And it is really frustrating. All I want to be doing right now is staying home and building them each their own tiny house here so that they can be safe and independent. But I have to go to work to pay the mortgage, and so I have to watch them suffer, powerless to help them. I know that I am not alone in this. So I've told you a little bit about my own story, about the way that I'm trapped right now and struggling to get myself and my children free. But as I said, I know that this is not just me. I know that you are out there in this crazy, broken mess of a world, just trying to survive, but also trying to make sense of all this insanity and trying desperately to get far enough ahead to get the heck out of this mess. The economy is getting worse and worse. It's getting harder and harder for us all to make ends meet just about everywhere. To be able to get ahead, to get far enough ahead to be able to escape from this horrible rat race, to be truly safe and free, who among us can do that? It is definitely the dream that they have always been selling us. It's the dream that if you just work hard enough and are obedient enough, and if you fit in and are the right sort of person, you can have that comfortable life. You can have that white picket fence. You can have a nice house, a couple of cars, nice clothes and furniture, matching china and silverware, Caribbean vacations every year, and then a mountain of gifts under the Christmas tree as well. Everything taught us that this was the dream. TV, movies, books, magazines, music, all the other people around us, and even the schools. Our whole childhoods, going back for a long time. But the last 100 years have really been the most intense version of this. This dream that we have been raised to believe in, it's been recognized by different people at many different times. But this most recent version, it was recognized and named by the technological philosopher Lewis Mumford. He named it the Magnificent Bribe. I discussed this in the first two of the series of videos that I'm making explaining how Wetico culture works. That basically, our entire culture is founded on this deal that we all make without even realizing that we're making it. We take a bribe of living a comfortable life in exchange for giving up on the possibility of ever escaping. We only get the comforts if we capitulate. You get the white picket fence, but you must stay within the white picket fence. You can have the house, car, and vacations, but you must go to work every day, do what you're told, and buy what you're told, and think what you're told. You must believe that progress is always making the world a better place. You must always believe that the new update, the new version is better. You must sacrifice everything in order to buy the newest version and always be up to date. When we take that magnificent bribe, we are trapped inside the white picket fence, in that rat race, always chasing the next advance in progress, always having to be part of the cool kids, always chasing the newest and greatest gadget. You have to always have a new car, even if it means that you have to have the job to pay for the car, to get you to the job, to pay for the car, and around and around and around you go, over and over and over again with every new gadget. But what do you do when the newest gadget that you have to embrace is a gadget that will take away the job that you need to have to pay for the gadget? And more than your job, the new gadget is going to do absolutely everything for you. It's even going to make art for you so that you no longer get to express yourself at all. Even your mind must now stay within the white picket fence. And both your mind and your body aren't going to be good enough to even get a job to pay for the white picket fence anymore. The new gadget is taking absolutely all of that over now. The new gadget is AI. This is another way that I know I'm not alone. A lot of people are disgusted by all the AI-generated content that we are being flooded by right now. There's already a name for it. I didn't come up with this name, but you know what? I really think it's perfect. People are calling it AI slop. AI is the newest gadget, but in so many ways it is the worst gadget ever. The gadget that traps us the most of all. People are already talking about how it is taking our jobs. Senator Bernie Sanders put out a statement about how we need to resist AI because it is going to steal millions of jobs. I used to work in call centers for years, but so many of those jobs are now being eliminated by AI chatbots. And there are so many other jobs that will be taken over and people's livings destroyed, so that big corporations can increase their profit margins. That's what all this is really about, after all. It's all about more and more and more and ever more profits for billionaires. That's the Wedico sickness at the heart of our Wedico culture. The sickness of using others, of voraciously consuming their life force to feed that hunger of the soul, to feed the always hungry ghost. Billionaires are the ultimate Wedicos. And basically, AI is Wedico itself, the sickness itself turned into a digital intelligence, an artificial intelligence. And artificial means a thing of artifice. Artifice is lying. Artifice is fakery, lying to us to sell us the magnificent bribe, lying so that we can be held, trapped, while our life force is sucked out of us. It's always all about selling whatever they can sell to us to create more and more and ever more profits. About creating dependencies so that we are trapped into always destroying ourselves to feed the machine. The evil machine that sucks us dry, keeps us addicted, so we will always give them more and ever more profits. Right now, we are at the love bombing stage, the free high stage, where they want us to get high on their lies, where they teach us to desire what they are selling so that later we will do everything to buy some more. So they're flooding us with sensational AI-generated content to provoke an emotional reaction. That's why the AI slop is everywhere right now. You cannot get away from it. They want us conditioned to reacting to the slop so that we get to the point where we can only have a reaction to over-sensationalized slop, so that we are utterly dependent on the slop, addicted to the slop, not able to think or feel for ourselves, not able to do anything by ourselves and for ourselves, fully crushed by Stockholm Syndrome, trauma bonded to this evil Wedico culture and unable to think for ourselves because the slop has completely eaten our minds. But there is a way out. There is a way to heal from this spiritual sickness. There is a way to live without being dependent, without taking a magnificent bribe. In his brilliant book called Dispelling Wetiko, Paul Levy talks about how making art is both the way to heal Wetiko within ourselves and also the way to create immunity against Wetiko. This is why AI is so dangerous, because by faking art, the lying software takes away our medicine. It is the slow, patient work of making things by hand, the deeply spiritual practice of making art, that is the only way that we can free ourselves from becoming Wetiko ourselves, and thus the only way that we can escape Wetiko culture. The way to escape is to become more independent, more able to do things ourselves, to do things by hand. The way to escape is a life made by hand. So, anything that helps us to learn how to do things by ourselves, by hand, is a way that we begin to escape. Like YouTube, where we can watch other humans rediscovering these skills, getting creative about making things by hand, rather than just buying what the billionaires are trying to sell us. Here on YouTube, we get to learn together how to do things for ourselves. We can learn together how to be able to provide for ourselves and no longer be dependent. We escape from the white picket fence and into the wilderness. We are no longer capitulating. We are no longer obedient, no longer tame. When we stop taking the magnificent bribe and leave the suburbs and the white picket fence behind us, and stop competing with each other for the scraps left behind, when we stop focusing on beating each other and instead join together with other humans, then we truly begin to be free. That's why I come to YouTube, to see all the wonderful people who do things themselves and teach and inspire each other, who teach and inspire me. And I absolutely love being able to share with all of you. It just makes me so happy. It gives me what I need to feed my soul and keep going despite everything. But now we are seeing videos that are written by robots, made by robots, not made by humans. And every time I run into a video that isn't a human teaching me something that they learned, every time I get a horrible robot video, every time I am faced with AI slop, it makes me sick, because that's not why I come here to YouTube. I don't know about you, but I sure as heck don't watch YouTube to see crappy, soulless, overdramatic, fake content made by robots. I watch YouTube to see real human beings, other humans who aren't perfect like me, just doing the best that they can and sharing their journey with me, sharing their real emotions, sharing their real lives. I don't want to watch AI content, so I'm never going to make AI content. That would completely defeat the purpose of this whole channel. I made this channel to connect with other human beings who are suffering in this horrible culture and want to make a better world for themselves and for everyone who they love. AI is just the newest technology created to exploit and to brainwash us all. AI is just the newest and most destructive form of lying. It's exactly what I'm trying to end, so I will never use it. You can't escape Wetiko culture while you are consuming AI content. AI content just recreates the brainwashing all over again. You've got to get your mind off the grid first, and only then can the rest follow. Now, I don't have any kind of real power to stop the billionaire Wetikos from using AI to keep us even more trapped, but what I absolutely can do is I myself can avoid any sites or pages or creators that do use AI. I've developed the ability to spot AI writing now and AI images. I'm sure we're all starting to get really good at this stuff. Don't give my attention to them. I still own my attention. And I still have my own ability to create. They can't stop me from making this content. And that is my pledge to you that I make right now. I will always be the one who makes this content. It won't ever be perfect. I make mistakes. And I sure don't get stuff done on time. I'm not a machine. I'm human. And that is why I make this pledge to you right now. I promise that this channel is always just me. Imperfect. Making mistakes. Low production value. Jumpy footage because of my permanent limp. Because, yeah, I'm permanently disabled. Yeah, a real human. I'm not just churning out soulless and dramatic content to generate views and income. Okay, yeah, it would definitely be nice to someday be able to add to my income with this channel, because that would help me to have the time to build homes here on the land and bring my children home to me. And of course, I would share all of that as content with you, radical homemakers. Wouldn't that be beyond wonderful? But the primary purpose for this channel is to express myself, to share my grief honestly, and to connect with all you other radical homemakers. And I'm working really hard to make a community for us all to support each other in this important work. This is how we're going to change the world. I've got a lot of projects on the go in the background right now. There are many videos in various stages of production that I'm trying desperately to get finished. I'm still working on creating the Discord community that I've promised to you all. And I have been sent 5 boxes of the most amazing small press magazine called Small Farmers Journal that I have to archive and figure out how to make available to our community. And this spring, once it begins to thaw in our backwoods, I will be starting to build myself a little home, a small building that will actually eventually become my studio, so that I will finally have room to sew, quilt, and upcycle waste materials into beautiful and useful objects. I have so many amazing projects planned. I desperately need new clothes, and I'm going to make them myself, so they will not just be comfortable and practical clothes, but also art, an expression of my own aesthetic, of my own style and unique self. This is how we begin to create truly sustainable lifeways, by creating everything that we need by our own patient creativity. We create sustainable lifeways, lifeways like we find in matriarchal cultures. Over these same years that I have been searching for knowledge to help me understand what is so wrong with this world, I'm finding these answers because of all the other people seeking to understand who have already figured this out. I did not come up with this. I'm smart, but no one is that smart all by themselves. Humans learn as groups. So, over these same years, I have also been learning about what it looks like when we live in ways that are not wrong. What it looked like for the many, many tens and hundreds of thousands of years before Wedico invaders began to destroy our natural lifeways. Lifeways that evolved in the enfolding and sustaining embrace of our sacred Mother Nature. The lifeways of matriarchal cultures. I want to share everything that I have been taught by so many wonderful and wise people. There is so much knowledge. Knowledge about how to make everything that we need. Knowledge about how to achieve health. Health in our bodies, in our minds, and in our spirits. Knowledge about how to fully integrate ourselves into nature so that we aren't living by destroying the life force of other beings, but rather by living in a fully interdependent mutual web of care. Knowledge about how to eat truly healthy and nourishing food. Knowledge about how to make buildings that are healthy and long-lasting, that shelter and maintain us rather than requiring constant inputs of unnatural energies and materials. Knowledge about how to make comfortable and long-lasting clothing from sustainable materials. I don't have all of this knowledge. I do have a lot of it, but I'm always still learning, always improving, always healing and gaining new skills. And I will always be the one here making this content for you, sharing my journey with you. This will always be authentic MamaCass Bear. You will always be able to come along with me. That is why this channel exists. I'm here to change the world for the better. I'm here to share with you. I'm here so that together we can get healthy, get independent, and get community. so that together we can reconnect with sacred Mother Nature, so that together we can and we will make ourselves home. That's what I mean by rematriate. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. Thank you so much for giving me the gift of your attention. Please do like the video and share it with others so that they can come home here to our community. The more people who watch, that's just that many more people who can heal. That's just that many more people who can become radical homemakers. If you want to join with other radical homemakers, please subscribe. I have a few other videos completed that you can watch. I'm always working on more. I'm always getting better at this. I'm still learning, still making mistakes. But while you're out there in this crazy, broken mess of a world, while you're out there in this horrible wet eco culture, just trying to survive, please always remember that I love you.
I left the hall light on in case you come back home. I sent a text that I was wrong. Oh, won't you come back home? Why won't you come back home? I've been sleeping with the light on dim. The dark feels heavier without you in. And every chord I strike cries your name. Won't you come back home again? Stars fell out, the moon turned gray. The wind keeps whispering your name my way. I've counted the hours, I folded the time, but nothing brings you back to mine. Still see your friends from time to time. They say you are doing fine. I smile and hold my breath and count to 10. Wish I could say the same. Wish I could say the same.